Did you see what he just did right there when she just said that?
See the tail wag? Right? Okay, so I always tell people the worst thing we can do when there's already tension is bring in more tension, because now there really is something wrong with what's going on. So he picks, your energy was like, la, 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 right? So he is going to go into even more protection mode. I've seen this 1,000 times, and now I finally just say to people, the best thing you can do, I teach dog daycare handlers and managers this. When you see a dog start to posture, your instinct is to yell no or buddy, right? Fight starts every time. But if you go, oh, this way, let's go, and then get up and move away from the situation, nothing happens. Move the energy away. And I'll tell you, I tested this with Buddy. Buddy is a dog that can go from 0 to 60 just like 4. And yet, he is the most well-balanced dog. But with a person that does the wrong thing, I've had either a foster dog in the house or maybe a friend's dog in the house or whatever, and who doesn't know the boundaries and rules. And I'll be petting Buddy, and that dog will come up into my personal space. And because I just don't want anything to happen to that poor dog because they're not mine, right? I've sometimes even just held on to him and gone, and not said a word, but just held on. And just that action of just holding him would make it worse than if I did nothing and went, Buddy, good boy, go say hi. That's a good boy. Changes the energy in the room completely. When people have a reactive dog and they're holding on to that leash, the first thing that their instinct is to tighten up on that leash and gain control. They forget that that tightening of the leash sends an energy right down the leash to uh-oh, right? Same thing. So you actually can do things to avoid conflict before it happens. You now know what the posturing looks like. It's a dog putting his head or neck over the neck or head or back of the other dog. Does it, now that we've talked about this a little bit, and now we kind of know that, you know, like I said, had Frankie been raised by his natural mom and dad, he would have been raised in an environment with all of those structure, rules, and boundaries, consistency, calming energy, and again, this is the part we haven't really talked a lot about today so far, is how much mental and physical stimulation are they getting? So how much does Frankie get as far as whether it's obedience training, working on a new command, maybe strengthening an old command, working with distractions with certain commands, using his nose, doing nose work, hiding his food bowl, letting him hunt for it, playing those mental stimulating games, anything. Because what's gonna happen, guys, is when you've got a dog that has all of this mental capacity and energy that's being unused, it's gonna come out. You don't want it to come out on each other. You want there to be a nice disbursement of energy that you guys have structured control over, so that it's not a madhouse. That's why when you hear dog behaviorists and dog trainers say, never take your dog to the dog park or dog daycare and use us as the outlet for energy, because then they come into that environment with all that energy and all that goes into each other. So the more mental stimulation that you can give them, the better off they're gonna be. I want you to think about something, guys. You have your job, right? You've got your friends, you've got your phone, you've got your computer, you've got your television, you've got your car. You've got all of these things you can do that basically keep you stimulated. You've got magazines, you've got books. We could go on and on and on. All they have is you. Now, how long before you guys would be climbing the walls if all you had was these 4 walls?
Yeah.
Really quickly.
So that's what we do when, like on a colder day, like it was really cold last week, and we usually take our dogs on 2 walks a day. And they were, you know, a little more excited because they didn't get their extra walks. We did mental games with them, and they were fine. They were great. But you can tell because they have this pent up energy. It's like, well, what are you doing now? Aren't we supposed to go? It's 10 o'clock. Where's our walk? And we play hide and seek. She will hide in one room and yell, "Find me!" And then the dog will go try and find her. And while they're finding her, I'll go hide in another room. "Find me!" And then they go looking around, and it is the funnest game because they're getting mental stimulation. They're using their nose. They're wondering what
Play
am I
the
doing?
scavenger hunt game. Hide treats all around the main floor. If you've got Frankie downstairs, hide treats all around the downstairs floor. Let him go hunt for them. I mean, it's something other than just
Bedtime yet?
Yeah.
like this is my life.
Yeah.
Do you know what my life would have looked like had I been raised in nature? And that's the thing, is that I think as a human race, we have all gotten complacent and we forget that dogs had this well-rounded life. And we just want them to be our pets. And they're like, but we're capable of so much more. And if you guys don't give us the appropriate outlet for what we were bred to do, right? Their breed, age, health, and temperament, then guess what? I'll create my own. Because I gotta get it out of my system. Just like me as a kid, I was a very hyper child. And my mom and dad knew they better keep me involved in lots of activities, otherwise I was a nightmare. And when they did, I was fine. But, oh, my poor teachers. So those things, from the rules and the boundaries and the structure, the calming energy, right? Watch this. Ready? Sit. Watch. Down. Good, stay. Good job. There is something to be said for remembering how it would have worked had they been raised by their natural mom and dad in their natural environment. So I know that the best chance my dogs have of coexisting peacefully is by making sure they're taken care of in the ways that they need to be taken care of. And that I have to cross my T's and dot my I's when it comes to making sure that my boundaries and, you know, the ways in which I'm interacting with my dog fall in line with their basic rules.
And you can do it just in the course of, in your day, just have them sit and stay and then come. And that's all, that's really something. And then, and do it again.
That's why they say every interaction you have with your dog is a training opportunity if you choose to make it one. Remember me talking to you guys about the Mutt-Master Makeover and what that looks like?
No.
So about 8 years ago, I wrote a program called I call it now the Mutt-Master Makeover. And it's a kind of like a boot camp, only it happens in your own home with you guys. And I have it all, there's 4 phases to this program, and each phase lasts a minimum of 48 hours, okay? So phase 1 is the hardest for everybody, because it's the biggest change in how you typically interact with your dog. You all have habits that you're not even aware of, like when your dog does come into your personal space. If you're not paying attention and you're not conscious, right? The next thing you know, your hand is down there petting your dog, and you're not even thinking about it. So what this Mutt-Master Makeover does is it gets your old habits out of the way to bring in the new habits to the forefront. So if I said to you, all of you, imagine if I said tomorrow morning, and you cannot look directly at your dogs, you cannot talk to your dogs, and you cannot touch your dogs for a minimum of 48 hours. I want you to just think. Think about what you do in the morning. Think about what you do in the afternoon. Think about what you do in the evening. Think about how you feed them. Think about how you let them out. And now implement all of the things I just said. You can't look at them. You can't talk to them. You can't touch them. What does that look like?
Awful.
Yeah, I mean, he's in my lap all the time. It's like right now, this is a long time for him not to be in my lap.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'm serious.
This falls under the category of you love him the way you need to be loved, not the way he needs you to love him. Right now, he's that spoiled little kid that comes up and goes, I want that candy! And you go, okay. And then you know what those kids turn out like. That's who he is. So the Mutt Master Makeover is really not as much for the dog. It's really for the humans that have the bad habits, that can't remember to honor all of these rules and structure and guidelines. So this is going to benefit Frankie, but it's going to help you become conscious of what it is that you're doing. I want you to think of yourself as a preschool teacher. Everything is on your terms. He's one of your students. And in time, after you go through the Mutt Master Makeover, and this is everybody goes through it, and all the dogs go through it, you will be much more aware of how much our dogs are almost like you see them go, oh, thank God. Like they breathe a sigh of relief because finally things are making sense. Things are much more normal, the way that things would have happened, the way dogs interact and how they live their life, right? Like the eye contact, as simple as eye contact, right? So our first thing is to go, no, right? But if eye contact is their number one source of communication, and I'm trying to discourage a behavior, but yet I look right at my dog at the same time I'm telling them no. So now think about this. I'm now talking to you, right? I'm looking right at you, and I'm telling you to go away. Since we know dogs don't talk, that'd be like, have you ever been in a Asian speaking nail salon?
Yes.
Doesn't matter how many times they say certain words. I have no idea what they're saying, right? And I think that's how dogs feel sometimes. We're sitting there going, and they have no idea. But what they do understand is, shh, or ah, or, see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds, because they bark, they whine, they howl, they growl. They make sounds, they're vocal.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we can try to communicate at least halfway the way they do, now we're meeting them in the middle. The first thing that people are shocked by when they call me at the end of the first 48 hours is I'll ask them a couple questions on the phone because I'm working with you through this entire program. At the end of the first 48 hours, you call me and I'm going to ask you some questions, and based on your answers, I get to decide if they're ready to move to phase 2. I may say neither one of them are. You got to stay on phase 1 another 24 hours. I may say Frankie is, but 4 is not. I may say 4 is, but Frankie's not. I don't know. It just depends on what you guys say to me. But the common denominator with every single person, and I've had at least 300 families go through this, they've all said the same thing. My dogs are so calm. They're so relaxed, like they're sleeping more. They just seem so comfortable in their own skin. They just are hanging out. They don't seem neurotic. They're barking less at the window and at the door. And I'm like, like I know all this. The Mutt Master Makeover is not something I ever tell any family they have to do. It's just something that I will say this. With all of my serious bite pieces, from either dog to human or dog to dog, right? I offer it. It's there if you need it. It doesn't cost more. If you've purchased the package from me, which you have access to it. It's up to you whether you guys want to do it or not. It's just an easy way to get everybody on the same page because we all have these bad habits, and it's our bad habits that keep putting them in situations. It's not the dogs.